Hello, and welcome to the mentorDINO podcast. I'm your host, Caitlin Rosier. I am an architect and founder of mentorDINO. Join me each week as I speak with amazing professionals in and around the architecture, engineering, and construction industry, as we are all part of a larger interconnected community. We discuss everything from career stories, lessons learned, and advice for others finding their own unique career path. Thank you to all of our current subscribers, and if you're new, welcome to the conversation. And if you like this episode, please do me a favor by hitting subscribe, like, or share it with a friend. It really helps others be able to discover this resource and support them on their own unique career journey. On today's episode of the mentorDINO podcast, I would like to welcome back David Stumpf, principal of David Stumpf Architecture in Buffalo, New York, and Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. So thanks, David, for taking the time to speak with me today and coming back on the podcast.
Thanks for having me, Caitlin. It's been an absolute pleasure. Second time around, I think. And excited for the conversation.
Yeah, so the first conversation you were on, we really focused in on your career path, journey, struggles, and dealing with, the struggles of starting your career whenever it's a recession. So if you've got questions on that, feel free to go back to the other episode. I believe it was episode 44. And when this comes out, you'll be more than double that. I think it'll be 115 or something by then
Wow.
for episodes. So you're pretty much like a halfway point mark
Yeah.
in the podcast journey.
Also,
But for anybody who,
congratulations on 100
oh, thank you.
plus episodes. That's actually a remarkable achievement.
Yeah, on the date of this recording, number 100 will be next week. So
Nice.
I was more surprised I stumbled upon it and I'm like, "Oh my gosh, I've already hit 100 episodes? This is crazy."
That's awesome. That really is awesome.
But for anybody who hasn't caught up on your first episode on the podcast, do you mind introducing yourself a little bit to my audience so they understand your experience and journey so far in your education and career?
Yeah, of course. David Stumpf. I grew up in Western Pennsylvania, so Pittsburgh area, just outside, east side of the city. Um, I went to college at Penn State my freshman year, and I was studying engineering. I didn't get accepted into any architecture programs right away. I knew I wanted to be an architect since I was 5, so it was something I had been working on. But it was kind of a blow when I didn't get accepted, so I chose engineering as a secondary route. After my freshman year, I applied again for Penn State and Kent State's engineer or architecture programs, and I got accepted to Kent State. And so I finished my undergraduate there, and I picked up a minor in construction management while I was there, which I think is key for a lot of architects if you have the opportunity to do that. And then I went west knowing I wanted to get a different perspective on architecture. And so I ended up at the University of Texas, San Antonio for my graduate degree. And Kent didn't have a 5 year architecture, bachelor's of architecture program. What they had was just your Bachelor of Science and your Bachelor of Arts. I ended up finishing with the Bachelor of Arts after having been accepted in the Bachelor of Science. And then kind of knowing I would have to get a master's degree anyway and wanting a more artistic and like a little more freedom in my academics. Going to San Antonio, it was the 3 year MArch program, so it was almost a cumulative 8 years of education by the time I was completely finished. Went back to Pittsburgh, where I worked for Peter Margatai in Pittsburgh South Side. He's a small boutique firm that does white gloves architectural, so anything from custom residences to really beautiful restaurants, that kind of stuff. That's what he does there. So I got a taste of the white glove service of architecture and the kind of the high design in that capacity. Was laid off from his firm after 2 years, received my architectural license while working for him. Actually, the day I got laid off was the day he signed off on my final hours, which was perfect timing. Took my last test and I was licensed. I think like within like a week of being laid off there. And then couldn't find a job in architecture. So I took a job in construction management for a local home builder. They're mid-sized. They probably build about 50 houses, 50 to 100 houses a year. Did about 3 months there, was let go, and then ended up going to Dallas and working for WDG Architecture on large scale, um, mostly residential. So think 300 unit apartment complexes and also high rises. So I got to touch on some of that. And I designed an office building in Tampa once. So um, that experience actually was much different. It was from design. They brought me in as a staff architect. I got to learn about design on those larger projects, space planning, just zoning, master planning, and then got to do construction administration and construction documenting on some of those larger projects. So that was very exciting. And I got laid off there after a little over 2 years, and ended up moving back to Pittsburgh. That was the pandemic, so that was 2020. You really couldn't find a job in Dallas at the time. Most major firms, I'm sure people are listening that know this, but most major firms were letting go at least part of their staff, if not a large chunk of them. So even starting my own practice at that point, there was too much competition in the local area and nobody was building at the beginning of the pandemic. So moved back to Pittsburgh
Hmm.
and started my practice there. And that's where I guess the journey starts for this conversation.
Yeah, so I want to hit on a couple different components because you've not only experienced trying to work during the 2008 recession, which
Yeah.
was a more drastic amount of layoffs and people leaving the profession. COVID really slowed everything down. So even though it wasn't as big of a layoff series, it was definitely a lot of people were getting furloughed because unless you were doing like a healthcare project or were an essential person, a lot of stuff got put on hold and firms had a big question mark of the unknown. And now in 2025, it's a whole different sense of economics where people are getting laid off because, government work used to be that stable, hey, we're going to do government projects. We'll be fine. We'll be able to keep our staff. And now government work is getting shut down. Healthcare even isn't as reliable. So there's not that like reliable thread. And we're in a weird situation where we're having a lot of people get laid off and very good architects, designers, and AEC professionals. So do you have any advice for anybody currently going through layoffs and how your pivot and journey came to, different types of work or even starting your own business?
Yeah. Well, first, I'm going to say that starting my own business was actually a goal of mine for a long time. It just got jump started from my final layoff in Dallas. My goal there was to actually be at that firm for 5 years, then leave, or at least be in Dallas for 5 years,
Mhm.
then start my own practice. Um,
'Cause how long were you in Dallas
I was
at
there
that
for
firm?
a little over 2 years,
Okay.
like 2 years and 3 months or something like that. So it was a decent amount of time, and I definitely learned a lot. But I got
It wasn't
jumps.
on the goals.
Yeah, it wasn't on the goals, but also looking back on it, it was like it may have been like in my comfort zone to say 5 years. You know,
Mhm.
um, so it was probably better that I got forced into it. But I had been planning for it all along. Um, Goals, I mean, like some advice for facing a layoff or a potential layoff. I would say it's going to depend on the individual. So do you like, is architecture your true love? Is that what you want to do? um, if it is, I know a lot of us have to battle just to, or it feels like a battle to get to the point of licensure. By the time you've spent all that time in school, you've taken your exams, and then you get to this point where you're finally a licensed architect, and then somebody pulls the rug out from underneath you. You kind of have to take a look at yourself and say, like, is this actually what I want to continue doing, or do I see a different path? Um, and if there's a different path, say you want to start a business and or like go work in tech or something like that. That's a different trajectory I can't really speak to. But if you find
Mhm.
yourself thinking, yeah, I really want to do this. This is what I feel my calling is. Then I would say if you if you can't find another job, which I'm like the key example of, it was almost impossible for me to find a job for so long. I would say learn new skills. stay updated. We have all this AI out there, and it doesn't take very long to learn about it and start to implement it in some capacity. So just begin working on that. How could you incorporate that into a skill set? Um, are you an AutoCAD user? How can you incorporate Revit? Um, you can start to learn some of that stuff, or even SketchUp. Like, what are some industry tools that you don't know that you could brush up on, and now you have that on your resume? Um, there's there's also the option to stay industry adjacent, which is what I've done. So when I couldn't find another job, so after I got out of grad school, it was 2015. Some areas of the country have come out of that like that 2008 recession, and they're starting to do a little better. Pittsburgh hadn't at that time. I got one job offer, and then when I was let go in 2017, um, it kind of ran into a position where I couldn't find another job in architecture. I was applying and I was
Mhm.
networking, but I couldn't find anything. Nobody was really taking on somebody of my caliber, I guess, or my credentials. So
Yeah,
I went
because we
into,
didn't hit that, like, boom in Pittsburgh until, like, 2018. You were just,
yeah,
like, just short, and then all of a sudden, everybody was hiring.
right, right, and um, it's still there's still a lot of building going on. I don't know how much design work is going on right now, but the construction side of that is all still flowing through. So I missed that. So I went into construction management, like project management for a home builder. That also gave me a whole skill set that I didn't have before. Like I knew how to build because of my construction management minor, but um, it really gave me a sense of how everything goes together. And I was a tinkerer as a kid, building tree houses and stuff, but I didn't. I never actually built a house, so that gave me the opportunity to do that. And even though I was only there for 3 months, um, I built 11 houses and at all different phases, and um, it gave me something to put on the resume that was different, but it was also project management experience. It also showed like I know how things go together. I
Mhm.
conveniently left off the dates, and nobody ever called me for that or called me on it. I just said this was the company I work for, and it worked out. So industry adjacent, be it working for a builder, swinging a hammer itself. There's stuff that other architects will find valuable experience as well, and also going to give you learning experience too, and keep keep you having a paycheck. And then the other thing is just I was going to say recession proof niche. So if you're looking for a job and you can't find anything, looking for something that's like more recession proof, but in the same vein of industry adjacent. And my first thought was healthcare architecture, but you said that that might be hitting a little bit of a lull. I've been so far out of it for a while. Um, I think recently I had somebody ask me to design a doctor's office, but um, that's sort of not quite the healthcare I was thinking of, where it's like hospital design and stuff like
Yeah.
that, because we have an aging population and we have that need. But some of the government oversight right now might not be beneficial for that. So I can kind of see how that would work. But I'm sure there are some niches right now that are more kind of recession proof. I mean, if you're if you're looking to start your own practice and you're kind of jammed into something right now, renovations or retrofits might be something that people still need a place to live. And I will say I keep getting phone calls for uh, landlords who have dilapidated houses that are getting code enforcers that are coming after them. So there are that will always be a niche as well. So
Mhm.
you just problem with that is it's bottom of the barrel. So you're not going to get paid well for it.
Yeah, and I think it's also diversifying because if you're, gonna be a practice that really hones in and focuses on something when, the economy takes a turn or a particular sector gets hit, you're gonna get hit harder. So when you were doing, like, the white glove service, like, 2008 to 18 was still weird for housing. And
Yeah,
so not as many people were building those high-end residential homes, and so a lot of residential got hit during 2008
right. I,
and other segments, but
yeah,
yeah.
I will say that there is always a segment of the market that's at the very top that will not be affected by a recession or anything like that. Um, and I'm not saying like the 1%. It's typically, you think like um, retirees or people that have money that have it saved up and they want to build their dream house or they want to build a house that
Hmm.
they can retire in. Those people aren't going anywhere either. The competition for them might be a little stiffer now, but there's there's always people building regardless of the market. I would just say that it's going to get a little tougher, like competing for them. So you have to differentiate yourself in some capacity.
Yeah, definitely. And kind of a different arm of the layoffs, because then the other argument point is, you're trying to recession proof yourself or make yourself somebody that's not going to get let go, but you really have no control of that when you don't own the firm. And
Right.
so then when you flip over to owning your own firm, you know, you can't get laid off yourself, but then at that point, you got to make sure business is coming in so you're actually profitable and moving forward. So shifting to the business side, how is trying to keep projects coming in and diversification of your practice going?
It's actually very difficult. And that is actually a great segue. I will say, to touch on one more thing, which actually blends into this as well. Um, creating I don't A personal brand is something that's like touted now, but creating something that has some kind of a following for yourself, letting people know who you are and what you do, it's key. And that can also help you in a time of a recession or a layoff if you've created this following, or at least people know what you do and they're reaching out to you to see if you can help them. If you're working for a company, you could bring that work to the company. It depends. Like I never moonlighted anything, um, but I also don't frown upon it if you're not competing with the company.
Hmm.
But if you take that personal brand and you move it to the I run a business side of things, that also helps people identify you and find you, um, regardless of whether we have a recession or if we're in a boom right now. That people are going to find you and they're going to understand this is what this person does, and it really is like the basis of know, like, and trust. People are going to find you. They're going to find your social media. They're going to watch it. They're either going to like you right away or they're going to not like you right away. And that's good because that weeds people out. And eventually, if you have enough stuff out there, people are going to want to ask, like, they're going to want to work with you. I've had a few, I've had a few people actually reach out and work together. I've got a project in the east side of Pittsburgh that is a very contemporary, like Scandinavian, well, it's Japandi style. So it's a
Hmm.
Japanese and Scandinavian mashup, cabin renovation. And the only way that client found me was social media. And she found my Instagram. She was an Instagram influencer, or so TikTok influencer, all that kind of stuff. It's ridiculous. She's got 1 million followers. And I'm like, just blown away. And she found me because I was tagging Pittsburgh Architect. Um, and she liked my work. We ended up working together. We created this beautiful home. Actually, just added it to my website because we had it photographed. Um, and then on the flip side, I've had commercial clients also reach out to me that way, who were just looking for an architect that they could trust. They found the work that I was doing, and the videos I was making, explaining the construction, explaining the design, and we just finished their project 3 weeks ago. So, and we're going to have it photographed on the 9th. So I'm not going to downplay that at all because and the fun thing is actually that client, the commercial client, he when he reached out to me, he had said that not only did he watch all my videos, but he listened to all the podcast interviews and was very, he was like, this guy's a straight shooter. He is articulate and he understands what he's doing. And I really like that. And so I can't say enough of, like, even if nobody's, or the perception is nobody's watching, nobody's listening, there's somebody out there that is eventually going to find you and they're going to end up working with you because of what you're doing in that capacity. Um, so I've had at least two. I've had other people reach out. We've never ended up working together. Um, and then, and from those, I've actually received a referral. Interesting. I'm working on one right now. It's just a bar design, like a basement bar. but
Mhm.
it's a referral from one of those clients, and um, it keeps work on the table. It builds a rapport. So if that client ever wants to do something else, we end up doing that together as well.
Yeah, because not all the time it's not the big fancy architecture. Like,
Right.
sometimes you just need to bring in work that can help make ends meet, and at least it's, still a fun basement bar, like,
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
entertaining.
Yeah. It's kind of cool, actually. That one, they they bought everything before talking to me. So now
Oh, that's
I'm,
fun.
yeah, now I'm trying to figure out how to put it all together. So they have an electric fireplace they want in the face of the bar, and I'm like, all right.
Mm,
So it actually it looks pretty cool now. At first, the sketch she had, and I was like, what are we talking about here? But it actually looks really cool, and it's a fun little project that keeps the creative juices going, but also, you know, opens up networking opportunities. Really,
mhm.
it's not probably something that I'll have on the portfolio. I might share it on the website. I'll probably share it on social media, but because that also gives you an opportunity on your website, you want to showcase the higher end stuff, or on your Google listing, you want to showcase the higher stuff that you're aiming yourself for. Like those are the clients that I want. On social media, it's just like people want to see how the sausage is made there, and so you show everything, um, and it ends up being much more real, I guess, in that way.
Yeah, and in social media, you have because it's short, either, like, single images, a carousel, or a quick reel video, like, that basement bar, unless you explain it to me, I've got no idea that that was the entire project.
Right,
And
right.
so it's like you could think that that basement bar is part of a full house you did, and on the website, you show the full houses. So, you know, that social media driver and trying to find content, don't be afraid to show stuff that you don't wanna work on all the time.
Yeah, exactly.
So
It it allows you to take little, even if it's a little part of a bigger project, you can take it and,
mhm.
narrow it down and explain this is what we were doing here and this is why we did it, which helps clients understand. Because you from our perspective as architects, we think everybody thinks the way we do, and it's very few people do. Very few people understand what we're trying to get across. So by explain using social media to explain that stuff, you build that rapport with them.
Yeah, going back to your know, like, and trust
Yeah,
aspect of, bringing in clients and bringing in work.
yeah, yeah. It ends up you end up creating like this parasocial relationship. So you don't know who they are, but they know everything
Mhm,
about you, and like they might think you're their best friend already.
mhm.
Not that that's happened to me, but like we've had like quick off the bat conversations, and like uh, you skip all the awkward stuff at the beginning of a developing a client relationship.
Yeah, I've even had that on the podcast side where somebody's come up to me and be like, "Oh, you're the dino person." And I'm like, "Oh, you know my dinosaur? Okay, like, I know
Nice.
nothing about you. Who are you? Where are you from? What's going on?"
Yeah, it gives
Um,
you a little taste about like I guess what the traditional celebrities would feel like, you know.
yeah,
But like our world is so different now that we couldn't have fathomed that,
mhm.
maybe 10 years ago. Uh, but nowadays it's like you can run into people or have random interactions. Not that I do, but like if you go to like a conference or something, somebody obviously someone's going to have seen you before and like know your podcast, and so that also another key thing of this is it's building your authority on the subject. If somebody's seeing you talk about it and talk and explain things and know what you're doing, then you're the authority on the subject. It's the and you set yourself out differently than that as well.
Yeah, definitely. And I know you've also expanded to Buffalo.
Yeah,
So your first location was Pittsburgh. So a lot of firms hit this, no matter what size firm they are, and expanding to their first, second city or first additional city is probably the better way to phrase it.
yeah.
So how's it been like expanding up to Buffalo?
So Buffalo is actually like the third location. I started the
Okay.
practice in Dallas, but
Yes.
moved, and I did a couple of small projects there. Um, and I guess going back to the moonlighting thing, I guess I really did moonlight when I helped a buddy renovate a house. So he like essentially flipped a house, and I worked. after work at the firm, I'd go there till like 2 or 3 in the morning and work on it, and then I'd go home. And that's when actually started my business. And then we moved. So the first physical location was there, basically closed shop there, moved to Pittsburgh, then kept the Pittsburgh office open, and moved to Buffalo essentially uh, last summer. So not this past one, but the summer before. So we're a little over a year here. Um, and So I had a physical office in Pittsburgh, on the east side of Pittsburgh. Picked that specifically because there was no other architects on the east side of the city, from Pittsburgh to Greensburg, which is a 45-minute drive. Not a single other architect in the area, which when you think strategically about setting up your business, you got to think about Google, where are they going to find you, and that's where that worked out the best for me. I happen to know that because I grew up there, and it's not a boom town like Cranberry is north of the city
Hmm.
where all the corporate headquarters are, but it's still a desirable area. So people are building houses there, and then the further east you go, the more moves into resort areas. And so those kind of clients were also looking at me. Moving to Buffalo was it was really a decision based on family. I got married, and my wife got a job up here, and her family is from here. She wanted to be close to her family when we have kids, so that was the real driving factor for moving here. Um, and selecting, I guess, going back to the selecting an office, that's key. I wanted, I guess it's a little pride and ego. And there was a workshare space in Seneca One, which was a tower built in the 80s, designed by Skidmore, Owings and Merrill. It's the tallest building in Buffalo. And I was like, I want that. And it's on the 30th floor, great view out. So I used that as my initial office here. I got no work from that. All of my work was still in Pittsburgh. I was going back and forth uh, every other week to finalize projects, and I was phasing some of that work down, and I was only taking, um, custom houses or like bigger commercial projects.
Yeah. Bigger
And
things to make it
yeah,
fruitful.
yeah, because the drive is actually like is really the hardest part. We do a lot on Zoom, but driving back and forth for the construction administration and to be able to document the projects, that's the toughest part. Um, I will say it's nice. My family's still there, so I'll crash at my brother's house or um, at my parents' house, and I still have the office, so I can go in there. And but selecting the office in Buffalo was, I want to say it was dumb, but it was an ego move because I worked in a tower in Dallas, and I was like, this is kind of the pinnacle. Like, it's pretty cool.
Mhm.
If you have clients, you could say, hey, I'm in the tower, and you got a great view of the city. But when I created my Google listing, I was drowned out. Nobody knew I was there. Um, I eventually closed that and moved because we had a problem with Google and their listing. Uh, we switched addresses because I wanted to keep my reviews from Pittsburgh, which is really how people find you. So Google will rank
Mhm.
you in search based on reviews, or even like proximity when either on maps or on their actual Google search. So you'll say um, architect near me, and then or like Pittsburgh architect or Buffalo architect, and how does somebody find you? Well, it's the review. That's how it is, and then you can get an SEO on your website, but really it's all review based. So nobody was finding me at Seneca One, so I switched my addresses, and they flagged me as um, deceptive content. And it took 5 months. I was fighting them, fighting them, fighting them. Nobody cares. My cousin works at Google. He couldn't help me. He's like a programmer there, and I
Mhm.
figured at the back end, at least he could tell me who to contact. And I got to the point where I created a Twitter just to DM the people at Google because I know tech bros, they all still use Twitter. That didn't work. And we eventually just deleted everything, created a new one. And I went back to all my old clients and asked them um, for their reviews. So this is new
Mhm.
as of 2 weeks ago. So like I've been fighting this for a long time.
Yeah.
Um, I closed the Seneca One office, ended that lease because I figured it was an address issue, and when we bought a house, we had this third floor that wasn't being used. So I renovated this whole area up here, and it's now my office. Um, and when I created the new Google listing, it located here, totally fine. And we're in the Elmwood Village, which is kind of like Shady Side is in Pittsburgh, or Lower Greenville is in Dallas, or I'm trying to think of some other cities that some of your listeners might know. But it's essentially like the artsy area that's up and
Hmm.
it's not only up and coming, it's already it's
It's in
it's
the process,
it's in the
and
process of now having like yuppies move in. Yuppies like
yeah,
me, I guess. I don't fit in with my neighbors. There's a lot of like artists, I guess, and I guess I fit in that capacity. But uh, I drive a pickup truck because I build stuff, and everybody
yeah.
else around here is like walking or
Doesn't have a car,
yeah,
taking
doesn't
their
have a car,
bikes,
drives a Subaru because they like outdoorsy, but
and you're in
like
Buffalo.
yeah, we live in Buffalo, so I guess the yuppie types of neighborhoods where people actually are renovating, fixing up houses. So as soon as I located here, and we got you know the reviews fixed and everything, now we have now I'm getting phone calls. Um, Now they're not the phone calls I want. It's a lot of those landlords that are
Hmm.
um, have a dilapidated house or they just did something. Like I got a phone call from a guy who put a 300 square foot addition on and added a bathroom to a house without getting a permit. And he said the city's trying to make him tear it down. I go, yeah, yeah, you actually. And he sent me pictures, and he had these little pylons and posts. It was like a pier and beam, and you don't
Oh,
build pier and beam
jeez.
here for a multitude of reasons, but mostly the frost line. So I was like, no. So all that said,
Yeah.
we've fixed out all the problems, and now I'm actually getting phone calls and doing the marketing, and so it's been difficult. And I don't want to settle that down. I came here without knowing anybody, and
Yeah.
and trying to network and get to know people and everything. So I've had one project so far in the city of Buffalo, and it's only 2 blocks from me. Um, I did a proposal for another one, which is also 2 blocks the other way. One was residential, one's commercial, potential golf simulator. So, like bar, a restaurant
Yeah.
golf simulator kind of thing. So,
You need
um,
to put in the proposal, like, free, like, use of the simulator
yeah, yeah.
after it's
Well,
done or something
that gets into like the creative ways to do
to
contracts with
do
your
business.
clients. Yeah, yeah. It's like I'll waive part of my fee if I become a
Yeah, free member or
investor.
something.
Yeah, or an
Yeah.
investor in the project, like give me a return on the back end. But yeah, so it was difficult, much more difficult than starting my business in Pittsburgh, uh, where I got business almost like right away. I
Mhm.
think it only took a month or two to get my first project and get going in that capacity. But Buffalo was different because I located myself poorly, and then I didn't know anybody, and I didn't break out of my bubble to start going to networking events and stuff like that.
Yeah, you kinda have to start over.
Yeah, right.
And the tech issues didn't help. I know, at least mentorDINO, I'm the only one here, and what I have learned, if you're gonna have a Microsoft 365 account, have a secondary email assigned to it, because I had everything go to, like, an authenticator app, and my phone completely shut down. I had to factory reset my phone, and it messed up everything on my apps,
Oh,
and Smith Group was able to fix it on their side, but I needed a secondary email, and I still don't have access to my Microsoft 360 stuff that's connected to mentorDINO. Thankfully, my email is connected to Google rather than standard Outlook, but
yeah.
I'm locked out of a number of things, and you can't get through to anybody. Like,
No,
I'm almost to the point of should I open a Twitter account just to try to get a hold of somebody at Microsoft? Because they send you to robots, then they hang up on you.
right,
And
right.
it's just like, okay, so for anybody starting out on their own, or if they don't have a secondary email to some tech form of how they operate, add your personal email to it, even if you're never going to use it, because you never know and you need a backup to
Yeah,
hit those fixes.
yeah, right. I have a Yahoo and I have an AOL that I started when I was in high school, and I use those as my authentic, like my two-factor
Hmm.
authentication. they work together. Like they go back and forth on their own, and then I
Yeah.
have that also for my business one, and then I use my phone number too, uh,
Yeah.
and so that I don't run into issues. Like just text me the thing or something, because I
Yeah. I
have
will never use the Authenticator app ever again for
no,
anything.
no, yeah. It's
But
like the idea is there, it's good, but it doesn't actually help the individual. It's a I've been thinking about this a lot. A lot of tech people think that they're the end all be all. We're going to fix everything with tech, or we're going to do all this right. And really, they're actually inhibiting a lot of like a lot of what's going on, and they're not the best ever. I actually got to the point where I was looking for the one who is she's not the CEO, but she was like the vice president or the president that ran Google Ads, and which the Google Business Profile is a subsidiary of. And I was
mhm.
DMing her, and I'm like, "You're not better than me. Like I run a business, you run a business. There's just different amount of zeros behind the bank
Yeah.
accounts that are associated with our businesses. Like, yeah, but they think they are. So
Yeah. It's like, oh, you're just like a no name. You can't come after me for anything.
yeah.
Like,
Well, I was thinking about this too. I'm like, I wonder if Gensler, if they ran into a problem, if they would even have any recourse. I bet you they wouldn't. I bet you they couldn't get through.
yeah, you never know. But yeah, tech, always have a backup no matter
Yeah.
what, because you never know when you're going to end up battling something or like, I'm sure you clicked like one wrong button and they flagged the whole thing. And
It
it's like, you
is
didn't even know that button exists.
yeah.
Like, it was an auto click or something.
Yeah, that's exactly right. So I would say if there's any advice on that side, don't let it drag out. If you think that you're not going to get through, just start over from scratch, bite the bullet. But like try to avoid doing that if you can.
Yeah. And I guess on the theme of starting over from scratch, so you're end of year 1 in Buffalo, end of year 5 with Pittsburgh location.
Yeah.
What do you have advice-wise from the experiences of those 2 location first year advice for somebody?
So first year advice, uh, I would say um, for the individual that's actually coming out of school, and this is like their first year of um,
I guess first
practicing.
year business.
Oh, first year of business. Oh, sorry.
Yeah, we'll keep it on the business side for now.
Yeah, yeah. Uh, Greater focus on marketing. Um, and what I mean by that is I would focus on the design and the renderings and stuff like that, which really don't matter in some capacity. Like they're not what's going to get you a client. Getting your face out there and getting to know people, that's what's going to get you a new client. I would focus more on that. And that's something I struggle with in a way. I've become a little more introverted as I've gotten older, especially working by myself. That's not helped at all in that capacity. But I would I would take a step back from trying to learn the newest rendering software and trying to make my images look fantastic. And I would go to networking events and join local organizations. The Association of Builders. I went to a few of their stuff. I would have joined. I should have joined that and gone to more of their things. The local commercial real estate. I can't remember the name of that one. Buffalo does not have it. Pittsburgh does. It's actually a huge organization. I would have joined that and gone to all of their events. All the big engineering firms, all the big builders, developers, they're all there. Brokers, those are the people that I should be focusing on knowing instead of painting grass in twin motion, for 4 hours a day. Like that didn't do anything for me.
Mhm.
Um, Now I have a couple of cool renderings on my website, but that's also not what's driving the final pictures of the project or what people want to see. Um, so yeah, I would. That was one of my biggest things is to make sure that you get out and you network and don't let the design side of things inhibit that. SketchUp is just fine. I've got a few images that are just SketchUp images of houses that are under construction, and then I'm going to switch them out when we actually get a chance to photograph them. Um,
Mhm.
I
But
think
you're not
that's
gonna spend the time to, like, do renderings in between to update the website, like, the
right.
time it would take to do that versus the number of clients I would actually bring in, if any.
Yeah, right. And I was doing that. That was like my first year or 2 years. I was doing that, and I would get frustrated. The computer would crash. I'd lose all my work, and then I would do it again. A little bit like I think it's a little bit like obsessive compulsive. Like trying to get it to look right and everything.
Hmm.
It just doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. So I would go back and like a nice SketchUp image that shows the project. If you've detailed it well, that'll work as well. Um, and then I would double down on social media. Like those are the two things: is networking and social media. Just double down on it, and I did. I hammered social media really hard. I got to the point where I burned out. So the just make sure that you don't burn out, and by creating something that's actually sustainable. I was like creating long form videos and shorts and posting on LinkedIn and posting on Instagram. And it was just like, it felt overwhelming, um, because you do get to that point where you're like, I'm not getting traction. I feel like I'm not getting
Hmm.
traction. And then I'm looking at these other people and I'm seeing firms that I don't see anybody that just started, but I'm seeing like these older firms that are all this traction. Well, there actually is a kid down in Florida that I follow who I'm like, how the hell do you have 20,000 followers and you're building these high rises? He's 10 years younger than me. So like the comparison also becomes a thief of joy. So you got to watch yourself there, but doubling down on social media, letting people know who you are and networking. That's really what I would do the first year of business. Make sure that that's happening. SketchUp is just fine. Your Revit renderings, just fine. Um, and I created my own website, which I think is actually good. Uh, I wouldn't focus like too much time on it, which I really didn't. I found a few architects that I liked, and I created a webs. I updated my website to look a little bit more like kind of like industry standard,
Hmm.
and and then I added all that information to it. So I would that is actually a good skill, and it's also nice to know that you don't have to rely on somebody else to develop the back end of that or work on that or update it for you. Where
Yeah.
yeah, it's actually very nice to have that. That kind of goes back to like that Google or that Microsoft. If somebody else is working on that for you and you don't know how it works, that kind of screws you over if they ever leave or if you ever like decide, hey, you cost too much. Um,
Yeah.
so I just went with a simple Squarespace website, and was able to get that going pretty quickly.
Yeah, or if you just wanted to update a photo on your website and you
Right.
don't know how to do that and you have to pay somebody like $500 just to change out a photo,
Yeah.
it's like having those basic skills is important.
Yeah. And so the nice thing with like a Squarespace website, you can do that very simply. I update it actually pretty often. So I look around at other architects in the area, and I'm like, how do you still have a 1990s website? And like your projects, the photographs aren't that they're pixelated and stuff. My stuff, I keep it updated pretty quickly. So like once a month, maybe I'll go in there, update it, change some things around, and then I can also bill through there too. So like this, instead of taking Venmo payments or something, I can send a credit card transaction. Like it'll auto debit, and then that'll go right to my account. So there's more modern ways of even charging your
Hmm.
clients based on that as well.
Yeah. And I think the other component that you talked about was even though doubling down on marketing and relationships to also not burn yourself out doing that as much
Yes.
as, you shouldn't burn yourself out just doing design because it's not going to actually bring in clients. I
Right.
know when I was posting on Instagram every single day and you get very little movement of people and nothing really happens and you're spending so much time creating content, it's trying to find that balance that you're creating content, you're staying up to date, and so it's not like, "Hey, I haven't posted on Instagram in 3 months," and then all of a sudden post a bunch. It's like, what's that rhythm that works for you, so then you can still work on your business, post, design, do all these different things because you are a solo entrepreneur. You have to have multiple hats, and you can't
Right.
let one hat stay on your head too long, I guess is
Right.
probably the.
Yeah, that's something I've done. Instagram itself, I haven't posted on for a while. We just took a trip to Chicago, so I did a post of our you know the architecture and some of the fun stuff that we did. Um, that's Yeah, it's probably been a couple of months. So the goal is to develop some kind of more sustainable way to do the social media thing. Because you're right, it's like comparison's the thief of joy. I really was letting that bother me. Um, and then it was inhibiting me posting stuff. And then thinking about new things all the time was also
Hmm.
inhibiting me because I was just letting it overwhelm me. So creating some kind of a sustainable way to do that is the most effective.
Yeah. And I know you're also a content creator
Yeah.
on YouTube and doing other things outside of architecture. So has that helped you diversify your income or find different people or an outlet for you?
Yeah. So for a little while there, when I was doubling down on like the Facebook and the Instagram, Facebook and or Meta itself was actually paying you for reels you were posting. So I was posting all the time, and I got maybe a few $1,000s from that, maybe two. Um, I wasn't getting a lot of views. It might cap out like 6 or 8 thousand views for whatever reel I created. Um, the YouTube's a different animal. Meta has since like pulled that, and I think they've restructured the way they're doing it. I haven't seen any update on that yet. So the YouTube side of things is really the best way to go. And TikTok, yeah, you can go viral, but I don't know if you can actually make money on it. I don't know if those views are actually good and from a business transaction, or if it's just like dopamine. People are just
Mhm,
like
like a
looking for the
dopamine
next
hit.
thing, and they're just continually scrolling. Whereas YouTube, people are looking for the authentic person. They're looking for a little bit of a longer form content. I know they have their um, their side of things that's competing with Reels or TikTok, but um, that actually can also drive people to your longer form content, find you as the expert. You get paid better. I run a secondary, like I run a YouTube channel with my brother that's all about um, fixing things, cars, houses, like how do you DIY stuff. And we make a few $1,000s each a year. So I think it averages like somewhere between $5,000 and $6,000 a year per like each. So that's like a good like small business.
Mhm.
Um, some years have their highs, some of their lows. You got to post, but
Yeah.
you could we diversify the ad revenue that you get on YouTube with um, uh, the Amazon influencer program. So if I'm fixing my truck and I'm like, hey, you need a starter, this is how you do it. You put it in like this. A lot of people watch that. I think we have like almost a
Yeah.
million views on that video. And then we link the product in the description. And some people will buy that product and we get a cut of that. So that's how we kind of help supplement or help kind of drive revenue. It's really become a pickup truck channel, to be honest, because like that's the moneymaker. And I've geared the architecture stuff. I used to make these really cool architecture videos on there, and I've moved that all over to my own platform. Um, so that like it helps grow my name as David the architect rather than uh,
The truck guy with architecture stuff too.
yeah, right. Because it's like you also have to think about like this is your niche. We were doing it really as a giant experiment. That was the whole thing. We had a video about this house in Jeanette that I wanted to buy for 20 grand, which is an old mansion, and it got like 2 million views at the beginning of COVID. It like skyrocketed, and that's really what took us off. Prior to that, we had
Mhm.
like 700 subscribers. We were just making videos for fun. We had like 20 videos up before that, and it was really honestly just a way for twin brothers to connect when I lived in Dallas and stay connected.
Yeah.
And then it's grown into this thing that's now a small business. But I've taken what I've learned with that and I'm applying it to my architecture business, and it's really helped. Now I will say I think my architecture side of things has 2,000 subscribers, but I've never hit like the view or the hours watched threshold they need to monetize
Yeah.
it. So and that's because I've done a lot of shorts recently. And so coming up here in the next few months, I want to do a lot more long form, specifically catered to the business. Like, how much does an architect charge? What's in a set of architectural documents? Those kind of videos that are going to be kind of evergreen content that people are going to find forever. And I'm going to apply that to really like funneling people to the business or potential clients, because that's another thing. I get so many questions. They're always the same questions. I just want to create a video that I can say, "This is watch these. Once you've watched those, we'll have a discussion." So
Yeah.
now this is what we do. This is how we work. You know, and it's kind of developing authority while also hopefully creating a secondary income stream.
Yeah, and especially if you're driving potential clients, even if they don't become a client,
Yeah,
it could still be a resource or anybody
right.
else looking to hire an architect. It's,
Exactly.
creating things to help everybody understand what we do.
Yeah, and to that point, so I grew up in a family business, a moving company, Stumpf Moving and Storage in Pittsburgh. My brother, he went to school for film. We grew up as kids, skateboarding and making skate videos, and him and my other brother and some of our friends, they all took the video class in school, so they would like get real creative with it. Um, and he segued with that into going to college for film, and couldn't get a job in it. So he's done a lot of very interesting um, jobs in his progression, and he's got a really cool career now. But he helps my family business with their YouTube channel, and my father and grandfather could not fathom that this is even a thing. Like we could even get any like they just couldn't fathom it. And he's developed a YouTube channel. It's got about 5,000 subscribers, which isn't a lot, but it is when you've got a targeted niche. So it's a
Hmm.
YouTube channel just about moving and storage, explaining how you go about in a professional way moving people, explaining to potential homeowners that want to move. This is what you should be looking for in a professional. You don't want to find a fly by night guy. This is how you do this. All this stuff. Um, they they make. I mean, I think it's probably at $600 or $700 a month right now in ad revenue alone. Then they have like sales from like boxes and tape and stuff people buy.
Hmm.
But they get phone calls from all over the country of people that have watched their videos, and they say, I just thank you so much. Or like a little old lady will call and say, I didn't know how to pack my lamp. Thank you so much for telling me that. Or a guy started wanting to start his own business will call them and say, Sean, thank you so much, man. Like what you're doing here. There's nobody else that's doing this. Thank you so much. Everybody else is trying to make money on teaching you this stuff. And they're not really teaching you anything. So
Yeah.
it's creating that is also creating your authority, and then also giving you like I keep hammering that authority thing, but it's very true.
Yeah.
I mean,
Because
look at,
it's money that like you shouldn't expect to get, but when
right?
you get it, it's a
Yeah,
bonus.
yeah. I mean,
Like I've
yeah,
got an Amazon affiliate. I don't really do affiliate marketing like much, but I also have a book on Amazon, and it's like sometimes I'll get a random email from Amazon like, "Hey, money's coming into your account." I'm
yeah,
like, "Oh, sweet. Somebody bought my book or, a link worked or something." And it's just
yeah.
like it doesn't hurt anything. It doesn't cost anybody else anything
Exactly.
more, but it's like, "Okay, I got another $7."
Right.
Great.
And as architects, we can post all the product. Like if you're talking about a certain thing, you could say, hey, this is where we got all the products for this project. Like we got picture light. This is the picture light that we have. This was the couch that we got. If you're
Mhm.
interested in that stuff, this is where you can find it. And it opens once you start to think about that kind of stuff. It opens your eyes to different ways of making money rather than just designing a house or
Yeah.
designing a building. Like you don't have to take those crappy deck projects anymore. If you're like, well, the money that I could have made doing that, I can make uh, of
Over here doing
creating a
this and
video. And yeah, I mean, like Eric Reinhold with 30 by 40, he's
mhm.
like the one of the pioneers of that for our industry. And like, look at what he's done. I mean, he's basically retired now, I think, or been able to retire in some capacity because of what he's done to be able to build that up.
Yeah.
So it's all it's like an interesting frontier for us.
Yeah, and think of it differently. Now I go through social media very differently. When you start diving into marketing, I will forewarn you, you will look at social media influencers or things that pop up on your feed, and it's like, "Oh, they're doing this. Okay, this is this trick. This is this
Yeah,
marketing tact." And so it's like you view it very differently. It's not as
yeah.
enjoyable sometimes. I'm
I
like,
called a pest control company yesterday to get a bat out of my attic, and the first thing was AI, then it was trying to do all this other stuff. And I was like, I know this playbook. I've listened to Eric Hermosi's books. Like, I know what you're trying to do here. And I just hung up and I called the other guy who was not that that's a bad thing, but I want to work with small businesses or local
Yeah.
businesses. I don't want to work with some conglomerate or somebody who thinks they're a big baller. You know,
Yeah. It's like we'll be a little bit more authentic with it. So, but thinking about the future, do you have some goals in the coming years you're trying to hit?
yeah. So for, and I was thinking about this of, um, the next 30 to 40 years. That'll put me in my 60s, and my 70s. And like, what am I thinking? What are my goals? So I have like short-term goals, and I've always kind of had those. And I've always had this like floating idea of what I wanted to do. But, I'd say, my trip to Chicago kind of inspired me, but like re-inspired me. When I lived in Dallas, I was always very inspired because of all the construction and all the beautiful homes around. When I moved back to Pittsburgh, like, it felt a little, damped down, and then Buffalo also likes to do that. Like, there's not a lot going on, um, but I would say long term goal in the next 30 or 40 years, I would really like to work on a skyscraper project like that. When I was a little kid, that's really what I wanted to do. And so I was thinking, what was my whole goal in getting into this? Like, yeah, I love building, and houses are what got me into this, but like, I had this dream as a little kid. I should keep that dream alive. Um, and then I'm going to try and develop a plan to work backwards from that. Okay, this is the goal. How do I get
Mm-hmm.
to that goal? And then, like larger projects. The goal at this point is to get to a project that's like maybe a 20 unit apartment building or something like that. I designed a 6 unit in Pittsburgh that never got built, um, which was a great experience, especially working with the zoning board and listening to people's rejections of the project, and then getting to, so that leap, that's not much bigger. I worked on those in Dallas. I worked on 300 unit apartments in Dallas. I worked on a 20-story tower. It's not that much of a leap to see that, like,
Mm-hmm.
that difference, which is also great. Why I would say the experience that I had before was fantastic, because at different scales you see that it's not that much different. So my goal is meet the developers that are doing this, and get one of those done in the next year or two, and then start to segue up from there. And if that means having to find projects that are not in this city, that are in other cities, then I'll go ahead and do that if that's what it means. Um, and then, secondarily, more beautiful detailing on my projects. So I look back on some of my projects and they're a little bare bones,
Mm-hmm.
and I've learned a lot. I continually to learn. Um, Behind me is my library, and, what I want to do is create authentic detailing. If it's a modern building or if it's a traditional home, like, I want to make sure that detailing is beautiful and authentic. And I think that's something that's become a lot more apparent to me, as I've gone and as I've grown. I didn't quite understand it before school. I was just trying to figure myself out in school, and, as I've grown, I think that's one of the values that I have, is that I really want to create beautiful buildings. Um, I don't want to create anything mediocre.
Mm-hmm.
And not that I have. I think I'm really proud of everything that I've done, because they're client focused, but I want to interject a little more beauty into those projects as well. And then finally, just architect as developer. Um, and if that means that's how I get to the bigger buildings, that's how I'll do it. But, the goal now is to save up enough money to start developing my own projects.
Yeah, if you can be the owner and the architect.
Yeah, a little bit like Jonathan Siegel,
Mm-hmm.
the way he's done it, and that guy grew from just doing a house to townhouses to, he's done some towers himself. So, um, it's definitely possible. So that's my those are my goals. It's just, do more beautiful work, get to bigger projects, and then hopefully be a developer one day.
Yeah. And I think that's good that you have a really long term goal, but then setting up those like tiny milestones because a lot of people get stuck and it's just here's the very big end goal and they don't know how to get there, or they're really good at short range goals
Yeah.
and they don't think of how short-term goals can actually build up to a larger goal in the end and how you can actually work all that together. So,
Right. I'd say my wife is the driving factor behind that because I was a short term goal guy. Like, what's in front of me? Well, I got to get that guy. I got
mhm,
to get that. And then she, like in moving to Buffalo, she's just constantly harping on me. What's your plan? What's your plan? What's your plan? Where do you want to go? And because she wants to see that um, I have a goal and that I'm not just like, you know,
aimlessly.
like yeah, aimlessly like wandering around or whatever. And then I never felt like I didn't have a goal. I always wanted to be the guy that owned my own business, and then ended up building, like developing buildings. But I like didn't have a clear trajectory. How am I going to get there? I was always just save, and then I'll have my own money because the bank is never going to help me.
Yeah.
But
And I always like wrapping up my podcast with this final question, and it's what advice do you have for young professionals just starting their careers?
yeah, so get licensed as soon as possible. I know that um, you've probably heard this a million times as a young professional, and I think getting licensed as soon as possible is not a cliche. It's the most important thing. But again, this is one of those things where you have to look at yourself and think, is this actually what I want, or do I want to go and do like a more creative artistic field somewhere else? Like if you want to be a YouTuber, then you don't have to get a license. It gives you
Mhm.
more credibility, but you don't have to do that. Um, I would say getting your license as soon as possible. It's going to open up a lot more doors for you. It also limits liability for you as well, because there's that what we were talking about earlier, the possibility of layoffs, and if you get your license, that creates a differentiation for you than the next guy or the next girl, and you can at least say, "Hey, I've got my architecture license," because most people are looking for somebody with a license. They're not really looking for the intern. That's
Yeah.
It sucks to say, but that's the experience that I've had. I get people asking me for jobs all the time. I'm not in that position to be able to take on a client or a hire yet. And as a single, like a sole proprietor, if I want to grow my business, I have to hire somebody that is as competent as I am, so that I can take a step back from what I'm doing and inject them into that, so then I can go do more biz dev or um, you know chasing potential clients, that kind of thing, bringing the work in. Then I can grow, bring a second person in, then we can start to create a structure below them. So getting your license, if you can get your foot in the door somewhere, and typically it's going to be a bigger firm, get your experience, get your license, and then um, that's going to separate yourself right away. That's my biggest advice. Um, and then don't be afraid to move to chase your dreams. Um, that was something I was afraid to do right away. Also, like looking back on it, like I knew moving for school was kind of a safety net too, because I'd come home for breaks, and
Mhm.
it never felt permanent. But when I moved to Dallas, it felt permanent. I was really scared. I got like not like a panic attack, but I was like sick to my stomach. Like, I'm gonna move. I'm gonna be away from everybody. You're not. Like, it's the United States. You can fly home. And if you're doing that, you should be getting a job that's going to pay you well, so that you have the opportunity. You might not get a lot of free time, but you have the
Yeah.
opportunity to be a little more mobile. And the big city typically offers that. The nice thing about a city like Dallas is it's also cost of living wasn't ridiculous like it is in San Francisco or New York. But you're doing the work there that's comparable to those two places, or like Miami or Tampa. You have those opportunities. They're a little more global cities too, so there's stuff to do. Stay grounded. Don't let architecture become your personality. And then which is I think a fault of a lot of architects. I've been there. If you're the guy just talking about buildings at a party, nobody really, come on, nobody wants to talk to you about that. Uh, they probably want to talk to you about uh, the new song Dua Lipa came out with, or how the Bills are doing, or a multitude of other things. And
Yeah,
then
and even as an architect, I crave those conversations. I know I
yeah,
pick and choose when I wanna bring my husband to an event because I think of that, I'm like, "Who's gonna be there? And is it a room of architects that are just gonna talk about work the entire time? Or am I
right,
actually bringing him to an event that is, maybe still a group of architects, but if they have that personality and hobbies outside of architecture, he can relate to them more and he enjoys those events more. And I
Exactly.
find I crave those conversations. I'm like, can we talk about fantasy football? Can we like go do something? Like I had this really cool cocktail the other day and it's like nothing related to architecture and I'm like
Yeah, right.
craving those conversations.
Yeah, that's absolutely right. So my wife's a doctor, and she will, she'll take me to summer events. It's also nice because like when she met me, she's like, "Oh my God, there's other problems in the world." And I talked to her about what I'm working on, and she's like, "Wow, I can't imagine how like small." She couldn't think of how small the world around her was getting because all they think about is work. And then
Hmm.
the same for me. I'm like, well, working by myself that really creates a small bubble. But when I was in Dallas, I'd hang out with my architect friends, and I hang out with my friends that are just like bros, I guess is the only
Hmm.
way to explain it. Um, and like those two worlds never intersected. Where
Hmm.
here, our two worlds intersect, and it's just very refreshing that like you
Yeah.
get to take a different perspective on the world. And then like I'll go to events, and uh, it's interesting where all they want to do is talk about their house or like something. So it gets a little boring sometimes for me, but it's also very fun to see like these everybody's like, oh my god, this guy does something completely different than us.
Yeah.
Um, but
I
like,
know my neighbor
yeah,
was putting on like she was fixing her patio and they were doing actual poured concrete and naturally when concrete trucks show up next to my house, I have to stop everything I'm doing and watch them do things, but I'm like
yeah, what's going
trying
on
to
over
stay
there?
out of it. And I was like, "Oh, I didn't really like the form work they did." And then she had issues later cuz like they didn't like it just all came out of the bottom and you could see it. And I'm like I felt really bad. I'm like I should have said something, but I didn't want to be that like obnoxious architect
Yeah,
neighbor, but like trying to I was over there educating her and then she was putting up retaining wall block and she didn't put a finished stone on top and she's like this doesn't look right. Why doesn't this look right? I'm like, "Well, you're missing this."
yeah, right.
And that's the only component you need and hey, this looks weird. Think about putting stone over there because then you don't have to cut grass in this little strip and it ended up turning out really nice, but it's like trying to play that game of not getting too involved even if people know what you do, but
Exactly.
it is fun when people are doing stuff, and my husband's like, "Just let it go.
Yeah,
Stop watching."
I go. I'll go out with Sydney and like we'll be at random places and I'll just start knocking on buildings, like touching the materials. We were like in Chicago, I was like touching everything, and she's like, "What are you doing?" And she thinks it's like super funny now. I actually we were walking by a house here. It was like a storefront on the bottom. It's like 100-year-old, all brick storefront on the bottom, rental on the top, and an iron column. And I was like, "What?" And I knocked on it. I was like, "Oh, that is iron."
So I wanted to thank you again, David, for being on the podcast again, and if listeners want to get a hold of you or ask any questions, career advice, or want you to work on their next project, what's the best way to get a hold of you?
Well, I'd say the best way to get a hold of me is either just shoot me an email or follow me on Instagram and send me a DM. I'm at Dave Stumpf on Instagram. We've also got one for the firm, David Stumpf Architecture. You can check out my portfolio at davidstumpfarchitecture.com. And then the YouTube channel is David Stumpf. You can just literally type David Stumpf in on YouTube and I pop up.
All right, and I'll put all those links down below in the show notes, so it makes it really easy to find you. But I want to thank you again, David, for being on the episode again. I hope you enjoyed our discussion today. Learn some advice to take with you and see how our industry is all tied together to create the world around us. Check out the description below for any links or resources we discussed. If you liked the episode, please do me a favor and hit the subscribe button. Give me a thumbs up and leave a comment below. It really helps others be able to discover this resource and support finding that career path that best works for them. If you know someone that has inspired your own career that you'd like me to interview, let me know in the comments below, or you can reach out to me via my website or LinkedIn. I'd be happy to share their story or your own. Thank you again, and I cannot wait
for the next career story I get to share with you next week.